Hi friends, I hope you're all having an amazing day. I'm super excited because Miss Aisha just talked to us about the senses, and now we get to do a super cool activity that's going to help us explore our sense of touch. So I have a list of items here that we're going to use today. We have a stuffed animal, a hairbrush, a pair of mittens, a spoon, and a candle. So if you have any of these items in your house, feel free to pause the video and have a family member help you get them together, and we can play at the same time. Here's that list again. Okay, let's get started. Our first item is a stuffed animal. So in the twins' blanket, each twin had their own stuffed animal that they would play with and snuggle with when it was time to go to bed. So I brought my favorite stuffed animal today, and his name is Mulan the cow. So Mulan, you can see from looking at him, has lots of different fabrics all over. And I wonder how each of these fabrics is going to feel. Let's start with the top of his head. It looks a little bit like our hair, but I think his is going to be a little bit fluffier. I can tell just by looking at it, it's standing up. So when we touch it, it's really fluffy and a little bit soft too, kind of cottony. We can feel each of the hairs and it's really furry and fluffy. Now Mulan has that same hair on his tail, so I think they're probably going to feel pretty similar. And if I touch it, it feels just like the top of his head. It's really fluffy and fuzzy and a little bit soft. If you have a different kind of stuffed animal, your stuffed animal might feel even different than Mulan does because it has different fabric, and I think that's super cool. And Mulan's body looks pretty different from his tail, doesn't it? And it feels pretty different too. This is really fluffy and it stands up, but this fur sits nice and flat, and so it feels really soft and silky even. Mulan has a different kind of fabric even on his nose, and if you can see, it has lots of little holes in it because it's a fabric called mesh. And when I feel it, I can feel each of those holes, so it feels a little bit bumpy and a little bit scratchy. Thanks so much, Mulan, for helping us. Our next item, do you remember what it is? That's right, we have the hairbrush. So, one of the ways we knew the twins were identical was because they had the same dark hair. And I think they probably used a hairbrush something like this to keep it nice and neat. So this is my hairbrush, and I'm super excited to see what each of these different parts feels like because they look really different, don't they? Let's start with the back. So, the back looks really shiny and I can't see any bumps on it. So I think it's probably going to feel pretty smooth. And it does. I can't feel any bumps or ridges. It's just nice and smooth and shiny. And I can't bend this at all because it's really a hard plastic. And if I try to press on it, it doesn't move at all. And we have that same material at the bottom of our brush. So I think it's probably going to feel just the same. And it does. I can't squish it, and it just feels really smooth. But this part looks really different, doesn't it, from these parts? Yeah. And if I press on it like this, it squishes underneath my finger. It's really squishy. It's filled with something called gel, so it moves when I press on it. And I can feel the bumps at the top of the brush. Just with my finger, I can tell that they're there. Really cool. This part's really interesting because we have lots of tiny blue dots on top of these little plastic spikes. So I think it's gonna feel pretty weird. It does, I can feel every single bump, and if I go really soft, it's a little bit ticklish against my hand. I can feel each of the spikes, so a really different texture. So that is our brush, lots of different parts. Our next item is a pair of mittens. These are really good for right now because it's so cold outside, so you should always wear mittens if you go outside in the winter. So these are my mittens, and just like the twins, they're identical. They look exactly the same. We're just gonna take a look at one for now. So if you have mittens of a different fabric, yours might feel a little bit different, but mine are made out of a material called wool. And wool is known for being a little bit itchy, and it's itchy and scratchy against my hand, so it's not very soft at all. I would not want a blanket made out of wool. And mine has a little plastic button. You can see that on the wool here, there's some lines. I can feel each of those with my finger. The plastic button feels just like the plastic on our brush. It's really smooth and hard. something cool about my mittens is that inside, if we turn it inside out, you can see that this part looks pretty different from this part, doesn't it? Here's our wool, but this inside is made of something called felt. And now felt, unlike wool, is so soft, and I can even rub it against my cheek. I would definitely want a felt blanket. So it's really warm and cozy. And that is our mitten. Our next item is a spoon. So I have a spoon from my kitchen, and this is made out of metal. Now, spoons can come in lots of different materials. There's wood, there's metal, there's plastic, but mine's metal for today. So metal, you can see, is really shiny. It's reflective, so you can see things in the spoon. Now my metal spoon is something really cool because if you put metal against your skin, it feels a little bit cold to the touch. And I can imagine it might feel a little bit like how the twins' feet felt when they put them in that cold water to wash their blankets. But it's a little bit chilly. And my spoon is really smooth and shiny. And if I run my finger along, you can see that there's some words here. And I can just feel those words without even looking at them. Just by touching it with my finger, I can tell that there's words there because it's a little bit bumpy. So that's our spoon. Our last item is a candle. Candles come in lots of different shapes and sizes and colors and smells, but mine smells like a snuggly sweater. So do you remember when one of the twins said that their blanket smelled like sunshine? Yeah, well, I'm not really sure what sunshine smells like, but I think we have to use our imagination. So can you imagine what a snuggly sweater smells like? Really good, I'll tell you right now. So my candle has a glass covering around it. Now glass is interesting because you can tell, just like our plastic and our metal, it's pretty shiny, but our glass is actually see-through. Can you see my eye there? So it's smooth, just like our metal and our plastic, but it's definitely a different material, we can tell. And the inside of my candle is made out of something called wax. And wax has a really interesting texture to it. If I give it a little touch, it feels a little bit soft, but a little bit sticky. And if I rub my finger along it hard enough, a little bit of wax comes off of my finger and I can even feel it there. So a really interesting feel to it. So that is our candle. It smells really good. That was our last item. So I hope you had fun today exploring our sense of touch. I know I did. Thank you so much for joining me and have a great day. We'll see you next time.